He's one of those figures from history, both alluring and incredibly dangerous. Today, we're diving deep into a timeless archetype of seduction, the rake.
So what is it about danger that's so irresistible? I mean, why do we find ourselves drawn to things that feel thrilling, maybe a little forbidden, or even risky? The answer to that question, well, that's the secret to the rake's incredible power.
All right, so what is a rake exactly? Well, at his core, he's all about this all-consuming passion. And we're not just talking about simple interest here. It's an insatiable adoration. The crazy thing is, that desire doesn't just stay with him. It's infectious. It spills over, making whoever he's focused on feel more desired than they ever have before.
Okay, but how does he pull it off? It's not just some random charm, No, the rake is a very specific, and I mean very effective, set of tools. Let's take a look at his secret weapons.
It really boils down to three main things. His incredible way with words, this vibe of uncontrollable desire he gives off, and maybe the most important tool of all, a very dangerous reputation.
So the way the rake uses language, it's just fascinating. See, he's not trying to have some logical back-and-forth chat. Nope. His words are specifically designed to slip right past your rational brain and hit you on a purely emotional level. They're meant to flatter, to stir up feelings, to basically hypnotize you. It's like the source material says, they're a subtle poison.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because it's a total paradox. What seems like his biggest weakness, this so-called uncontrollable desire, is actually his greatest strength. It makes him look vulnerable, right? Like he just can't help himself. You combine that with his bad reputation, which, instead of scaring women off, actually creates this competitive buzz. It all plays into this incredibly powerful fantasy. Maybe I'm the one who can finally tame him.
Okay, so we've seen his methods. We know what he does. But the real question is, why? Why does this stuff work so incredibly well? What is the deep psychological need that he's tapping into?
The rake's real power. It's all in the fantasy he's selling. Think about it, especially in societies with really rigid rules. In a world that's constantly telling women to be responsible, virtuous, and conventional, he shows up as the complete opposite. He's offering a total escape, a moment of pure release, absolute pleasure, and a thrilling walk on the wild side. He's not just selling a good time, he's selling an escape from reality itself.
Now, this isn't just some abstract idea, History is absolutely packed with real guys who mastered this art form. So let's meet some of the most famous ones. First up, we have the Duc de Richelieu. This guy was the classic audacious rake. He turned his dangerous reputation into a weapon. He didn't hide his affairs, he broadcast them. He knew it would just make him more desirable. And that story about tunneling through a kitchen cupboard, it perfectly captures his boldness. The man would literally break through walls to get to his lover.
Then you've got Gabriele D'Annunzio, and he's the perfect example of how being a rake has nothing to do with being handsome. Apparently, he was pretty unremarkable to look at, but his voice and his words, they were intoxicating. He had this way of making women feel like their very souls were being lifted up. He seduced them completely with language alone.
And of course, we have to talk about Lord Byron. He might just be the ultimate rake. He perfected the art of weaponizing a bad reputation. He went out of his way to create this devilish, scandalous persona. And what happened? He became the most desirable man in all of England, because he tapped right into all the repressed desires of that buttoned-up conservative society.
But, a life of just pure pleasure and scandal, it doesn't come without a cost. The rake's whole lifestyle stirs up some really intense emotions, and not just from his lovers. And that inevitably leads to his downfall. Now, you might assume the biggest threat to the rake is a scorned lover, right? But you'd be wrong. The real danger, it comes from members of his own sex, from other men. His success, his total disregard for the rules, it provokes this intense and often pretty dangerous backlash.
And this danger can pop up in a few different ways. You've got the raw envy from guys who just resent his life of pleasure. Then you have the more direct threat, physical attacks from angry husbands. And you even see political persecution from these so-called moralists, who, let's be honest, are probably just driven by their own secret jealousy.
So all of this brings us to one last big question. In today's world, is the rake just some old-fashioned historical relic,
Or does the fantasy he represents, that thrilling escape from the everyday into a world of pure, dangerous passion, does that fantasy still have a powerful grip on our imagination? Something to think about.